So, Anders Sandberg, you want this done to you, so somebody could say in years to come, the good news is we've cured cancer, the bad news is, oh, we can't wake you up.
Well, in that case, I haven't lost anything. After all, if you can't revive somebody from cryonics, then they are not worse off.
Yeah. Anders, what do you want done? What is your vision? This girl is having her whole body preserved. What are you going for? What option have you chosen?
Well, I'm on a cheapskate and on an academic salary, so I'm just going for my head. Because after all, it's my brain that's the important part. That's me. Those connections, I want to preserve them, and hopefully then they can be restored in the future.
But then what happens to your body? How will you have your head and not your body? Sorry, you've lost me there. Am I being thick?
He's lost his body.
Well, that would probably be a bit of heavy medical waste. That's somebody else's problem. But given the technology required to both cure whatever would have killed me and the damage you would get from the cryonic suspension, you would actually have pretty advanced medicine. Fixing a body in comparison is probably relatively simple.
Anders, could you just give us an indication here, if we've whet anyone's appetite for this, how much do you envisage this costing you?
So I'm paying 15 quid a month for life insurance. That's the standard way of paying for it. So it's about $90,000 or more to store the head. So you don't want to pay up front exactly. It's much easier to do it using life insurance. And then it's a nice meal a month. I can do without that.
Let's go to Alison now and talk about the ethics involved in all of this. Are we losing the plot a bit here? Is this just about this young girl wanting to be frozen and being cured, or is this about choice?
I think it's quite different talking about a 14-year-old girl who wants to do this and an adult like the gentleman we just held there a moment ago. With a 14-year-old who's just sort of on the cusp of life, they've got everything ahead of them, the idea of dying must be so horrific, and you can understand that anger and that rebellious teenage anger. I'm not going to let this happen. I will not allow this to happen. And the mother wanting to try and find some comfort for her, agreeing to it. So I've got total sympathy in that situation. However, I think as a society, particularly amongst adults, there is this constant attempt to stave off death and to sort of refuse to accept death as part of life, which of course it is. And as a result, you know, we don't want to talk about death. It's become this unsavoury thing that must be avoided at all costs, which seems terribly sad, because your doctor there is talking about he wants to come back, but for what purpose? Isn't it better that we just live the life?
For what purpose, Doctor? For what
I don't know
purpose?
What you're coming back to.
Yeah.
What would you be coming back to in 200 years' time? Does that excite you?
Yeah, I'm working on the questions about future technology, what we can and cannot predict, and I want to work on reducing the risks to mankind. So I want to see that the world is around, that it was saved, and maybe hopefully help build more. I'm curious. I want to learn more, and there is no end to that.
Dr. Zoe, they've been doing this since about 1967, and they have frozen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. Yeah. And do you know how many of them have lived?
I would guess 0.
Correct.
Yes.
Spot on. None of them have woken up again.
They're all saying you don't know.
No, we don't know about the future. We didn't used to do heart transplants. I mean, you didn't used to be able to freeze eggs and sperm. So all that sort of stuff can be done. So we don't know what the future holds. But there will also be millions of other people on the planet by then. Why do we need to keep bringing back people that have already had that?
We're getting overcrowded now, aren't we? It's like how many?
Not for you, Alison, no.
Not for me, no.
Not for you.
I think, you know, as a human being, you can see when people are losing the person they love, people cling on to any bit of hope. And in this case in particular, you know, if it gave that 14-year-old girl a little bit of comfort in her last days, you can see why that happened. But even if we are able to bring back a human body, the human body is made up of organs. So an organ needs to function, the brain needs to function. The brain is made up of cells which need to function, and in that cells there are DNA. And what we know is as soon as a body dies, even within minutes, that DNA starts to break down. So I really can't see with my scientific mind on how hundreds of years in the future, all of that is going to come back together and work, and a human being will walk and talk.
Yeah.
Anders, you seem to be agreeing with that. So it's unlikely that it's going to work, and yet that doesn't put you off.
It's somewhat unlikely that it's going to work, but I still think it's worthwhile to doing. It's a slim chance, but it's not a microscopic chance. And also, as soon as we stop breathing, yes, our brain starts decaying because of lack of oxygen, but we can slow that down, and that's actually done as fairly standard medical practice by cooling down bodies. So a lot of it, the structure of the tissue is preserved, and if we use the right suspension protocols, that can be slowed down more. So it's not like as soon as the doctor signs that a paper saying he's dead as a doornail, we immediately dissolve into goo. That's not how it works. It takes hours, and you can slow that down. And with cryonics, you can make it essentially last indefinitely.